You picked up the phone, and then you put it back down, not because there was no one to call. There were names in that phone, people who would probably answer, but your hand stopped anyway, and you sat there for a moment, not quite sure what you would say, or whether you even had the right to interrupt someone else's day with the particular weight of yours. That pause, that small, quiet hesitation, that is where this conversation begins. Because the loneliness you are feeling right now is not what most people think it is. It is not an empty calendar. It is not the absence of people. You may be surrounded by people and still feel it at the dinner table, at family gatherings, in a room full of noise that somehow makes the silence inside you louder. The loneliness that burrows in deepest is not about how many people are around you. It is about something that has slowly closed inside you, something you may not have a name for yet. Today we are going to name it 7 times. 7 hidden reasons, reasons that even the people who love you cannot see, that have let this particular ache take root. And alongside each one, what Buddhist teaching, over 2,500 years, has understood about the way through. This is quiet wisdom. Stay with me a little longer. I want to show you something. 1. You are waiting to be found. You spent decades being the one who showed up. You were the one who remembered. Who called first? Who drove across town when someone was sick? Who organized the birthday dinner? Who sent the card that no one else remembered to send? You were, for a long time, the person who kept things together. And then, without anyone deciding it, without any announcement, you stopped. Maybe because you were tired. Maybe because you figured it was finally someone else's turn. Maybe because some part of you thought, if I go quiet for a while, they will notice, and they will reach out. That felt, in a way, like a rest you had earned. But no one called. Not because they do not love you, not because you are forgotten, but because everyone on the other end of those names in your phone is doing the same thing, waiting, holding their own phone, putting it back down. Buddhism speaks of Upādāna, clinging, but more precisely, the way we grip the old shape of our lives and wait for it to return. You are not just waiting for the phone to ring, you are waiting for the version of your life in which you were the person people needed. You are waiting for a door that closed quietly and that will not open by itself. A well does not fill with water by waiting. Water moves toward openness, toward low ground, toward whatever has made space for it. Connection works the same way. It does not seek out the person standing still. You have to be the one who creates the first movement. Not because you are lesser, but because that is what living things do. They reach. There is a man, 74 years old, 30 years as an engineer, someone who built things his whole life, who sat next to his phone every Sunday afternoon for 6 months, telling himself that if they wanted to talk, they would call. He was not bitter. He was principled. He believed in not imposing, and no one called, not because they did not think of him, but because both sides were waiting for the other to go first. And here is what you may be thinking. I do not want to be a burden. I do not want to interrupt someone's busy life. That feels like consideration. But consider this, when you call someone who matters to you, you are not taking from them. You are giving to them. You are saying, I thought of you. That is generosity in its simplest and most underused form. 3 seconds of courage to pick up the phone is not an imposition. It is a gift. This week, one person, one call, no occasion needed, no script prepared, just, I was thinking of you. Connection does not find the person who is standing still. At some point, the one who spent a lifetime reaching will have to reach one more time. 2. You have lost the story of who you are. For most of your life, you knew exactly who you were. You were the one who left for work at 7 in the morning and came home knowing what had been accomplished. You were the one the kids called when something went wrong. You were the one the neighbors turned to. You had a role, and that role was not just what you did. It was the story you told yourself about who you were. And then, quietly, that story ended. Not in one dramatic moment. There was no ceremony, no clean conclusion. Just a series of ordinary mornings where the thing you used to do no longer needed doing. The children found their footing. The job became a retirement. The role that had defined your days simply stopped, and you sat there, not quite sure how to answer if someone asked, "So, what do you do now?" Buddhism has a word for the ground underneath this feeling: Anicca, impermanence. Everything changes. Every role, every season, every form that life takes is temporary. That is not a pessimistic teaching. It is an honest one. The problem is not that roles end. The problem is that we confused the role with the person. We wore the costume for so long, parent, professional, caretaker, provider, that we forgot there was a person underneath. Here is what is true, even if it is uncomfortable to sit with. You are not what you did for 40 years. You are not what your children needed from you. You are not your calendar, your title, or the shape your days used to take. Those were the clothes. You wore them so long you forgot you were the one wearing them. The clothes have come off, and this right now, in this quiet, may be the first real chance you have had to meet the person who was inside them all along. A woman who taught school for 35 years told me she did not know what to do with herself on the first Monday of her retirement. Not because she was lazy or lacked ambition, but because for her entire adult life, Monday meant a classroom, a chalkboard, 40 faces that needed her. When that ended, Monday became just a word. She did not lose her job. She lost the sentence that had told her every morning who she was. You may be thinking, "I am too old to be finding myself." That is for young people. But Buddhist teaching does not recognize the concept of too late for awakening. People have arrived at clarity, at 80, at 90, in the last years of a long life. The self was never lost. It was waiting patiently underneath all that doing. Write something down, not a list of accomplishments, not what you have given or built. 3 things you genuinely love to do when no one is watching, when nothing is required, when the day is entirely yours. Those small, honest answers are the thread back to who you actually are. Loneliness sometimes arrives not as punishment, but as an invitation to meet the person you have not had time to know. 3. Your mind has become your loneliest room. When the house goes quiet, the mind does not go quiet with it. You know this. You have sat in that silence and found it was not silence at all. It was a room full of voices, old conversations replayed, things that should have been said differently, relationships that ended without resolution, choices that looked different in retrospect. And underneath all of that, a quieter, more persistent voice that says, maybe it was your fault, maybe you were not enough, maybe this is what you deserve. That voice is not telling you the truth, but it is very convincing in the dark. Buddhism offers a teaching here that I have found, personally, harder to argue with each time I return to it. It is called the second arrow. When we are hurt by loss, by rejection, by loneliness, by the plain difficulty of being human, that is the first arrow. It lands, it hurts, There is nothing to be done about the first arrow. It has already arrived. But then we pick up a second one, and we shoot it at ourselves. The self-blame, the shame, the 3 a.m. question of why you are the only one going through this. The certainty that you are somehow uniquely insufficient. That second arrow, the one we fire ourselves, almost always hurts more than the first. Think about it this way. If a friend sat next to you and said, out loud, the things your mind says to you in the quiet hours, would you call that friendship? Would you keep answering that person's calls? You would not. You would step back. You would protect yourself. And yet we accept the same thing from our own minds as though it was simply the truth. I know this voice. I think anyone who has sat with enough silence does. It is not a stranger. It is familiar, and that familiarity makes it feel credible. But having a thought does not make the thought true. The mind generates thoughts the way weather generates clouds constantly, automatically, without needing permission. You do not have to believe every cloud is permanent. Here is the thing you do not have to control: every thought that rises. Here is the thing you can practice: the distance between the thought and your response to it. Even a few inches of space, even one breath between the voice and your acceptance of what it says. Tomorrow morning, before you get out of bed, 10 breaths. Not meditation, not a technique, not a program. Just 10 slow breaths. That small pause, practiced every morning, is enough to begin building a different relationship with the voice in the room. The mind can be a very loud companion. The practice is not to silence it, but to learn which parts of it are worth listening to. 4. You are still carrying what others left behind. There is something you have not told anyone. Not because you are secretive, not because you have decided to be strong about it, but because you genuinely do not know what to do with it. It does not fit in a conversation. It is not the kind of thing you bring up over the phone, or mention at dinner, or explain to someone who would only try to fix it. So you carry it alone, a weight you have grown so accustomed to that you barely notice it anymore, until a quiet evening when it makes itself known again. It might be the relationship with a child that has gone cold, a friendship that ended without explanation, something someone did years ago that was never addressed, never apologized for, never resolved, something you did that you have never fully forgiven yourself for either. These things sit in the house with you. They do not leave when other people do. Forgiveness, and I know that word is heavy. Perhaps setting it down is easier to hear than forgiving. Forgiveness in Buddhist teaching is not a statement about who was right. It is not saying that what happened was acceptable. It is not pretending the injury did not occur. It is asking a different question entirely. How long do you want to keep paying for something that is already over? Before, that wound travels with you. It sits across from you at breakfast. It makes you careful with new people because you have learned that people can leave damage behind. It creates a kind of invisible distance between you and anyone who gets close enough to matter. After, you still remember. The memory does not go away, but remembering and being imprisoned by the memory are two different things. One is knowing the history. The other is living inside it. What setting it down actually changes is not the past. It is the amount of today the past is allowed to consume. A woman and her daughter had not spoken for 7 years. Neither of them could quite remember what started it, only that the silence had gone on long enough to feel like it must have been something serious. Each was waiting for the other to apologize first. Each was alone in that waiting. You may be thinking, but they were wrong, not me. Perhaps that is true. And here is the honest reply. Whether they were wrong or right has nothing to do with whether you continue to carry the weight. The question is not about justice. It is simpler than that. Do you want to keep paying this price? You do not need to call. You do not need to make peace today. Begin only here. Write it down, privately, for no one but yourself. Name what you have been carrying. Give it a shape on the page. That act of naming, of looking directly at what has been living in the room with you, is the beginning. Becoming lighter does not mean forgetting. It means deciding that today does not have to be another day the past takes more than its share. 5. You have forgotten how to be happy for others. You saw a photo. An old friend, traveling somewhere beautiful, surrounded by grandchildren, laughing in a way that looks like everything is exactly right, and something tightened in your chest. Something small and quick before you could catch it. You closed the phone. You did not comment. You told yourself it was nothing. But you noticed it, the faint sting of seeing someone else's life looking exactly the way yours was supposed to look. You do not want to feel that way. You know it is not your best self. But it showed up anyway. Buddhism has a word for what has been closing, slowly, over the years. Mudita, sympathetic joy. The happiness that arises from witnessing another's happiness. Not a natural reflex. A skill. Something that requires the same patient repetition as returning movement to a muscle that has long gone still. Here is what that contraction in your chest actually is. It is not cruelty. It is not selfishness. It is fear, the trained response of a heart that has learned, through enough loss and enough quiet years of watching other lives from a distance, to protect itself. Every time someone else's joy felt like a comment on your own life, the heart closed one window. Not in malice. In self-defense. The heart, in this way, is like a room with many windows. Every wound, every season of watching happiness that did not belong to you, you closed one more window to keep the cold out. After enough years, the room became safe. No drafts, no sudden weather, but also no light, not much warmth from outside at all. Mudita is not throwing all the windows open at once. That would only let the cold in again. It is the practice of opening one window just slightly and letting one small beam of someone else's light into the room. Not to pretend your own situation is different, not to perform happiness you do not feel, just to allow the possibility that their good fortune is not a subtraction from yours. A man sat alone in his living room, watching the final game of a team he had followed for 40 years. They won. He laughed out loud, by himself, no one else in the house. The joy was real, unmistakable. No one witnessed it, and it did not matter. That is what mudita feels like, happiness that does not require an audience, does not require fairness, does not require your own life to be arranged correctly first. The two things can coexist. You may have tried this and found it still hurt. That is honest, and it is allowed. Mudita does not erase the ache. It only adds something alongside it. Two things at once, your own quiet grief and the genuine warmth you allow for someone else's joy. Over time, what you tend to is what grows. You cannot choose your first response, but you can choose what you feed. Today, when you see something that belongs to someone else's happiness on the screen, out the window, anywhere, say it quietly, just to yourself. Good. I hope it stays. You do not need to feel it fully yet. You only need to say it. The heart tends to follow what the mouth practices. The heart does not close from cruelty. It closes from fear. And fear, with enough patience, can be taught differently. 6. You have been treating your days as something to get through. You know the feeling. You sit down to eat lunch and realize, somewhere in the middle of it, that you have not actually tasted anything. You walk through the garden and your mind is somewhere else, entirely somewhere in the past, or waiting for something that has not happened yet. The afternoon moves past you the way weather moves past a window you forgot to open. And by evening, you have the vague sense that a day has gone by, but you cannot quite account for where you were while it was happening. This is not laziness. This is not ingratitude. It is something Buddhism names very precisely. Dukkha, a word most often translated as suffering, but whose older meaning is closer to something slightly off, like a wheel whose axle does not quite fit its center. The dukkha of the waiting room. The particular restlessness of living your own days as though they were a rehearsal for the real ones, the ones that will start when someone calls, when something changes, when circumstances finally arrange themselves into something worth being present for. There is a story told among monks that has survived centuries because it refuses to be complicated. A student came to an old teacher and asked, "What does your spiritual practice look like?" The old man said, "When I am hungry, I eat. When I am tired, I sleep." The student was puzzled. "But everyone does that," he said. The old man shook his head slowly. "No. When most people eat, they are thinking of 1,000 other things. When they sleep, they dream of 1,000 other places. I only eat. I only sleep." That is the entire teaching, and it is not simple at all. A man in his late 60s had been watering the same plants in his backyard every morning for 10 years. Same route, same hose, same order. One morning, for no reason he could explain afterward, he stopped. He looked at a new leaf that had just uncurled on one of the plants. It was the particular green of something that has just arrived in the world, slightly translucent, catching the early light. He stood there longer than he expected. He thought, "I have been doing this for 10 years and I have never actually looked." That is not a failure. That is an awakening. Small, unremarkable, and entirely sufficient. You may want to push back. Small moments cannot compensate for real loneliness. Standing in a garden is not the same as having someone who knows you. That is true. Buddhist teaching is not offering a trade, give up human connection, receive mindfulness instead. It is saying something more honest than that. This moment, this one, right now, is not a waiting room. There is no other version of today that is more real than the one you are inside of right now. Tomorrow, choose one ordinary thing, making coffee, washing a dish, sitting on the porch. Do it as though it is the most important thing happening today, not because the task is significant, because you are in it. And when you are fully in an ordinary moment, it turns out the moment is rarely as ordinary as it seemed. The life you are waiting for has not been delayed. It is happening right now, in this room, in this breath, in the specific quality of light coming through the window at this exact hour. You only have to be here for it. 7. You believe you have nothing left to give. This one sits deepest. It is the quietest of the 7, and perhaps the most consequential. After a lifetime of giving your time, your attention, your energy, your presence, the specific and unrepeatable knowledge of how to care for the people in your life, you arrived at a point where it felt finished, not bitterly, not resentfully, just done, complete. The work of giving had run its season, and now it was time reasonably to receive, to be tended to for once, to let someone else carry the weight. And when no one came to tend, when the silence arrived instead of the gratitude, When the children got busy with their own lives and the friends stopped suggesting lunch and the days began to carry a particular kind of unclaimed emptiness, you read it, quietly, as confirmation. I am no longer needed. That part of my life is over. Buddhism gently and insistently disagrees. The teaching here involves giving not as duty or virtue, but as something closer to oxygen. It is not something you do for others at some cost to yourself. It is the way a living person stays connected to the world. When giving stops, not because you have nothing left, but because you have decided the season is over, the connection it sustained begins to dissolve. And the dissolving feels, from the inside, like being forgotten. But you were not forgotten. You stepped back, and the world, as it always does, took you at your word. A candle does not lose its flame by lighting another candle. The light does not diminish. But a candle kept inside a closed box, unlit, untouched, preserved, does not stay as it was. The wax grows dull, the wick dries. Even in preservation, something is slowly lost. You do not give in order to empty yourself. You give in order to keep burning. A woman of 76 called her 19-year-old grandson, who was away at college, 2 states distant, homesick in ways he did not know how to say out loud. She did not call to ask about his grades. She did not call to offer advice or remind him to eat well. She called to tell him a story, something from her own childhood, funny and specific, and entirely hers. He listened. There was a pause, and then he said, "Tell me another one." She stayed on the phone for an hour. She hung up and felt, for the first time in weeks, like herself. That is, I am not sure there is a better word for it than presence. The kind of giving that costs nothing and costs everything. The kind no search engine can produce. She gave him the irreplaceable thing. The knowledge that someone who had lived a long life thought he was worth an hour of it. You may be thinking, I do not know what I have left to offer. Then consider this. You have memory, the specific, textured, living memory of decades that no one else carries exactly the way you do. You have time, and you have attention, the ability to listen to someone without composing your response, without checking a screen, without managing 3 other things at once. In the world as it exists right now, that quality of attention is genuinely rare. It is a gift most people have not been given in years. This week, one small act of giving, a call, a letter, a story told to someone who did not expect it. Leave something with someone who did not know they needed it. You will not feel alone while you are doing it. That is not coincidence. That is the nature of the thing. The person who is certain they have nothing left to give is often the one with the most to offer. 7 reasons. 7 doors into the same room. You are waiting instead of reaching. You have misplaced the story of who you are. You are sharing the house with a voice that does not tell you the truth. You are still carrying what someone else left behind. You have taught your heart to close when it should have been practicing how to open. You have been living in the waiting room of your own life, and you have decided, without meaning to, that the season of giving is over. None of these are character flaws. None of them mean something is wrong with you. They are the natural accumulation of a long life, the way stone collects moss, the way a door left closed long enough begins to feel like a wall. And here is the strange, quiet truth that sits underneath all 7. The loneliness you feel is not the verdict, it is the information. Think back to the beginning of this conversation. You picked up the phone, and you put it back down, not because there was no one to call, but because something in you was not sure yet. Tonight, before you sleep, think of one person, not the easy one. Someone you have been meaning to call for longer than feels comfortable to admit. You do not have to call tonight. Just remember them. Recall one specific thing, a particular afternoon, a shared meal, the sound of their laugh. Let them exist in your mind as a real and full person, not a name in a contact list. That act of remembering, of holding someone in your attention with genuine warmth, is already loving kindness. Already the first step out of the room. And tomorrow, if you want, pick up the phone. You do not need to know exactly what to say. You never needed to know. Just, I was thinking of you. That is enough. It has always been enough. The house will still be quiet, but the person sitting in it will be different. If this felt like a conversation you needed, there are more waiting for you here. This channel is a quiet place, and you are welcome in it whenever the silence gets too loud. If one of these 7 reasons named something you have been carrying without a word for it, let me know with a like. It tells me this conversation matters. And if you know someone sitting in a similar stillness, someone who picked up their phone today and put it back down, send this to them. That act of thinking of them is already the first practice. One last thing, I read every comment. Which of these 7 reasons feels most true for you right now? You do not have to explain. Just the number is enough.